set irrigation, you call them G-sets, they're very programmable?
Yeah, absolutely, and we spent a lot of time getting our control system organised for what is our solid set offering, which is G-set. And we've got a couple of control systems, one which we've had made in Israel to our specification, and the other one is made in Christchurch to our specification as well. Both of them have very similar components to do the job. So we've got solar panels and batteries, because obviously we want to support the battery as well as we are able. To get it right through a whole season, we need to have that solar panel to assist the battery. And then they've got CPUs or brains in both of the units. So in that regard, they sit independently and they do their job on either a daily basis or every couple of days, or whatever your design criteria is for your irrigation.
So you basically preset them?
Absolutely, yeah. So with the Baccarat controller that we've got from Israel, essentially you set that up at the start of the season, and for example, in a G-set sense, that might be operating for 30 minutes every day. That might be two 15-minute segments in the morning and afternoon, so wind conditions are dealt with. And that's pretty much the same with the Q-Tech device.
Once they're set up for, I guess, whatever season, you can change them if we hit a whole lot of wet weather or becomes very, very dry?
Yeah, with the Baccarat controller, because it can only take human intervention, you need to actually walk up to every device and change the program if you needed to. Generally, you've set up the irrigation for the worst case, and generally in a season sense. In the Q-Tech, however, we have gone that extra step, and we've got the ability to communicate with that wirelessly. And what that means is that we can take a device, we can update in the computer the schedule for when we want it to all work, and then we can take a manual device and actually update it without going into the field.
What sort of range does that reach?
Something like about 2 kilometres, although because it operates by a mesh process, it's possible where you have topography against you. So maybe you have hills and then valleys and then other valleys and then hills, where the devices, you can't see all of the devices. The devices will communicate from one to another to actually get the information to the very end.
So I suppose they've got a number or some sort of identification so that you can set them?
Yeah, essentially every one of the Q-Tech devices is unique. So a little bit like your name's Rob, they've got also a descriptor that has as unique.
When do you use either of them?
Generally it's about how much time you actually want to spend setting it up initially. With a pivot corner like we have in our background here, generally something like about 50 to 70 is about the limit of my intent anyway, in terms of manual programming, before I'd actually want to do it with some more ease in terms of control systems, computer, and actually doing it off a list.
And I suppose hill country, you'd go for the wireless system rather than the set system.
Yeah, certainly in those situations, from a practical sense, if you want to check whether in fact the device is operating or how its battery state is going or how actually it's progressing through the season, being able to do that with a handheld device is much easier process in those hill areas than it would be to walk to everyone.
So I guess the nice thing is that you can set them to work at night where there's very little evapotranspiration.
Yeah, what we're able to do in that case is that where G-set might be, for instance, traditionally a one-day return, we'd make it a 2-day return, and we'd actually organise it so that in fact we've got night irrigation and day irrigation for the same pod. And that means that the climatic conditions that were prevailing yesterday are probably not the ones today, and we've covered off a lot of that evapotranspiration difference by actually having it operating at a different time of the day.
Talking of hill country, how do you get it to go uphill?
Well, that's all about the amount of pressure that you actually deliver into the system. The higher the pressure, obviously, the more elevation you can actually achieve in your property. And being a pipe manufacturer, we know that in fact we can manufacture polyethylene up to 25 bar, which is 250 metres of elevation.
So coming back to the programming, I guess that you can program the unit to whatever pressure?
Absolutely. Generally the pressures in a system are actually set by pressure reducing valves on the ring main. We tend to set that early on in the design. Operating pressure for the G-set, somewhere around 4 bar is about ideal, although it will operate at slightly less than that. And we will put pressure reducing valves on the ring mains so that in fact they're all operating at about the best position.
For those who have got posts in place and they've got the set on a post, you've got a bit of magic that you can attach to that as well?
Yes, absolutely, because the principle's very much the same in terms of operation. So long as we're able to install a latch solenoid on the valve that exists, it's possible to use either the Baccarat or the Q-Tech device. And in fact in Q-Tech we've added into that a special post unit which clamps on the post, connects into the solenoid, and off you go in exactly the same way as G-set.